You are listening to the Urban Sports Scene. Check us out at the home of the Urban Sports Scene, urbansportscene.com. And of course, hit us up on all social media platforms. Just search the Urban Sports Scene. And it is time for HBCU Corner. And our guest is no stranger to the show. He is the head coach of the back-to-back MEAC Tournament champion, Howard Bison. Welcome to the Urban Sports Scene, Coach Kenneth Blakeney. Thanks for joining me, Coach. How are you?
What's up, Ray? How you doing, man? Thanks for having me on.
Oh, I'm doing phenomenal, man. Like I said, you're no stranger to the show, and you won't remember this, but a few years back, we had you on 2020. This is when we were still audio. It's kind of the heart of the pandemic. We were doing a DC area basketball series, and my co-host Wole, he's not with me now, but in just like a good host would do, he was doing his research on you so he could ask you some good questions. And he saw that you shared the court with Randolph Childress, and that made him so excited because he was such a big Randolph Childress fan, man. And at the time, and now I got to thinking, I'm like, you know what? Randolph Childress played with Corey Alexander, and I think Serge Ricker was on that squad. I'm like, man, I don't know if I've ever seen a more talented tandem than those two guys, but you got a long history on just with the game, playing the game, coaching the game. In the DMV, what would you say? This is kind of like I said, an icebreaker. What would you say is the most talented, maybe backcourt tandem you saw in high school basketball during your time?
Wow. I mean, when just in my my years in high school, I think when you look at our league, we had at Archbishop Curl, we had Lawrence Moten, Charlie Harrison. That was a pretty good backcourt. One guy ended up at Syracuse as the all-time leading scorer in the Big East and played several years in the NBA. And Charlie Harrison ended up at Georgetown and Wake Forest. You go over across town to Gonzaga, they had Lamont Morgan, ended up at Georgetown. Avis Willis, they were stacked. Robert Churchwell ended up at Georgetown as well, played a few years in the NBA. I just thought we grew up in an era that was really, really ridiculous for talented basketball. You go over to Coolidge in the inner high, Kurt Smith over at Coolidge, Bill Barnett. We when you think about it, Ray, I think there was probably on the All Met team 7 or 8 guys that played in the NBA from my class. So, what a lucky era to be playing in, especially if you like competition and good basketball.
So many Georgetown guys, and another friend of the show, Monty Williams. Kurt Smith was like his best friend. I don't know if you knew that back in the day. Now, fast forward to sort of my era, which wasn't too much longer after you. Joe Forte and Keith Bogans were on the same team. And you fast forward a few years before this, the younger guys, you had Victor Oladipo, Quinn Cook, and Jeremy Grant, all on the same team, man. And they had another NBA player on that squad too. I cannot remember his name. No, it's been escaping me. But it's been a boatload of talent for decades here, man. You were part of that though, so I'm sure that it was a tough time going out and playing on the playgrounds and in the gyms back then. What do you think?
Well, I loved it. We talk about it now because the way we try to structure our basketball program is to emulate what we saw growing up. Ray, for me, growing up playing on the playgrounds, we didn't have these nice gyms that everybody, get to play indoors at or get to have their workouts in. We went to the playground and there would be 30 dudes out there or more. And, getting on was a challenge and staying on was a challenge. And if you lost during that period, you might have to wait 30 minutes. You may have to wait an hour. You may have to go to another playground if the guys didn't respect you enough to pick you right up immediately that they felt can help their team. So that's what we built in terms of our culture with Howard. Everything we do has a winner, everything has a loser, and then everything has consequences, because that's what I really felt prepared me best as a young man growing up in Washington, D.C., was that there was consequences to winning and losing. And when you look at the landscape of AAU these days, I go to these tournaments on weekends and observe, and some of these teams, they play 4 and 5 games, but there's no consequences to their games. So when you get a young man that spends 60 games a year in that culture, you look at that, that's probably 240 games over a 4-year period. How many games were not meaningful games? So It's almost like you have to reprogram the competitive part, the that there's consequences to winning and losing, and I don't want to say in this culture, but with some of these young men and probably young ladies that are playing the sports today.
I love that answer. AAU, we already know what that culture is like, so that's a challenge for you as a coach. But I feel like just on some other discussions we've had, you've adapted well. I mean, that includes, of course, NIL, that includes the transfer portal. That's part of this new culture that you're talking about. But you mentioned your of course, your university, Howard, and let's get right into it. I mentioned when we opened back-to-back MEAC tournament titles. I remember interviewing you after the Hampton opener, which was a great game, by the way, at the Burr. Dom Campbell was just getting back on the court after missing like a year of basketball. And you told me at the time, you said, this group I have currently, we've only practiced collectively maybe 4 or 5 times because you had so many injuries. And unfortunately, that was kind of the theme of your season, but you still achieved one of your biggest goals, which was winning the MEAC tournament title and getting a bid to the NCAA tournament. Looking back now after a few months and reflecting, how were you able to manage that, and how were you able to overcome such a significant amount of injuries?
Well, I think, appreciate you bringing that up. When you look at our year, we had a record number of injuries. We kind of did the data on it. We ended up with 84 guys in our rotation miss games because of injuries. And that is, if it's not number one, it's number 2 or 3 in the country. As we looked it up with the data, we got some, different numbers from different analytic group people that kind of track that data. We had 15 concussions.
Wow.
I was at a leadership summit over the weekend and was talking to a friend of mine who's an assistant general manager at the Cleveland Browns, and was telling him, I said, we had 15 concussions. That's more something that you guys would see in your sport than we would see in our sport. And he just started laughing. He was like, in basketball? Wow.
I know.
I just think through the grace of God, man, and through the character of our staff and our young men, being able to stay resilient and to continue to understand the big picture in mind, that ultimately was, can we win those 3 days in March? That was just something that was always in the back of our mind. We knew that we were a good program. We were a good team. We had on paper, but, from day to day, Ray, we didn't know who was going to be healthy. We didn't know who was going to practice. We didn't know who was going to play. And that was a little, disturbing. Coming to practice every day, I didn't know if Tyler Thornton or Steve Ongley, our 2 assistant coaches, would have to jump in there to make, 5-on-5.
Wow.
If we had to restructure practice, I do practice the night before. And a lot of times I would do 2 practice plans. I would do 1 practice plan if we had, enough to go 5-on-5, and another practice plan if we had to go, half court. So it was, I just think it was the resiliency of our guys and, our staff, but also I think the culture has kind of been cemented here at Howard as well.
Coach, I know there was some frustration, though. You didn't always show it, but I saw it definitely. And I felt as though after the Legacy Classic, I was there, that late lead you lost, that was the most visibly frustrated I think I saw you after a game. However, I feel as though that was also a turning point in where your team really began to gel. Would you agree with that sentiment, and just talk about how that loss impacted you guys? Because I felt like from there, outside the Norfolk game, you played some really good basketball down the stretch.
No, absolutely. That's very observant on your part, Ray, and you're doing an unbelievable job.
Oh, thank you, man.
It was the turning point in our year. We stayed in the locker room after the Hampton game for 2 hours. We missed our dinner and was late for our dinner afterwards, but it was important. It was needed for us to talk through everything that we needed to talk through, and guys that we had on our program, with bringing some new guys in, was still laying down the culture. Right? What is our culture? What are we about? What do we stand for? And we just had to have a deep dive into what was important with our program. And I think once everything was out on the table and everybody collectively bought in, it was a different team that last half of the season. And we were able to, I think, regardless of injuries, regardless of who we had, we were able to make a run.
Absolutely. And I just want to say, as a side note, I came back, like you kind of just said, doing my job. I watched that game on YouTube, and I heard Grant Hill in the commentary. You alluded to this years ago when you went to Coach K's retirement ceremony. You said these guys that are part of my sort of fraternity of players at Duke, they are really invested into what I'm doing at Howard. And I could tell listening to Grant on that call that he knew what was going on within your program. He knew your personnel, and I just thought that was dope. I just want to throw that in there. Shout out to Grant Hill, who I spoke with after the game. But I thought that was amazing that he's following what you're doing, man. It's a true brotherhood, and that's awesome. And speaking of which, Bryce, he's one of the leaders on your team, Bryce Harris. And at the MEAC tournament, you said he is the most important recruit of your tenure. How does it feel bringing back such a strong leader to this team moving forward when you know, again, the climate that you're in with NIL and transfer portal? But he's coming back, and I think he's been so instrumental in winning these back-to-back tournament titles.
There's no doubt about it. I had a great conversation with him this morning. Had a chance to spend some time with him, had a great conversation. And, Ray, in this era where it's the transfer portal and, you can have multiple times that you put your name in transfer portal and NIL, to have a guy that coming back that was 18-8, should have been MVP of the league, first team all league guy, should have been defensive player of the year. He's a guy that should be on All-American radars for next year. He is we should be rewarding young men with character and, understand what it means to be on a basketball team, what it means to be at one university, what it means to be committed. He's done all of those things, man. And it makes me so proud to be his coach and to know that he has committed to Howard University and committed to me in a way that is not, the norm in today and not what his peers are doing.
Right.
He's the mayor of Howard University right now. He's a Sigma, so he pledged not this year but last year and went through with that. He's been, like you said, the most instrumental and important recruit that I've had in my tenure at Howard. And his jersey's going to be hanging from the Raptors. He's going to be he's probably going to be on the verge of being one of the winningest players to ever play at Howard. One of the most decorated players ever played at Howard, and we need to honor that and reward it because he's been everything we've asked for and then some.
He will always have a special place. I'm gonna get back to that kind of later on in a way, because he's so tough. That's the one thing that I love about him. What sold me on him is the Cincinnati game, honestly, because of course you're a bit undersized, but he played so tough in that game and helped to force that game to overtime. And then at the MEAC tournament, he's got bandages, he's banged up. But when I asked him a question, he's like, "I'm a football player, man. Like, this is nothing." Like he was relishing the moment. I just love that about him, man. Just great dude, man. And I don't like to pick favorites, but then again, one of my favorite guys on your team is Marcus Dockery. I can't lie, I just like to watch him play. I remember watching him shoot when he first came to your team, and somebody tapped me and said, he's going to help replace Kyle Foster. I'm telling you, this boy is one of the best shooters in the country. And that left-hand stroke kind of reminds me of Van Axel a bit. I know that last shot at Wagner, you wouldn't have it any other way. That's the guy you want taking that shot. So how have you been able to support him in the offseason? As I know he kind of would love to get that moment back as that game ended in such a close fashion.
Yeah. What's incredible is that, Marcus is going to be a college graduate in a year. And I know that's something that his mom and dad, his little brother is really proud of, and so am I. It's to see a young man who started out at the University of Maryland and, didn't work out the way that everybody wanted it to work out. And he had to kind of, reset in a way and come to Howard and not really know what to expect. Just, my relationship with him was just like, here's my word. And I'm going to, I'll work with you every kind of way possible for you to be a great basketball player, but also to get a degree from here. And it's been him doing the work. He's several quarters so far, semesters, he's been above a 3.0, and he's, I think, close near that for graduating. So he'll have a chance to graduate with some honors. What a remarkable journey that this young man's had, from high school to now. I was talking to him yesterday on the phone, and I was just got off the phone. I was like, I'm so proud of this young man because the maturity that he demonstrates every day, and I'm excited for him because I think he's going to have a monster year. I would like to see him gain a couple pounds though.
How do you do that? How do you do that? Because I was with you guys when you were celebrating the tournament berth, of course, the selection show, and he ate pretty good. So I know he's eating.
He definitely is. His metabolism, I guess, is so super fast that we have to slow that down a little bit and make him eat 5 meals a day with some snacks in between. But hopefully he does that over the summer because it's going to give him a better chance to be, a greater level with his potential as a pro, right? And I just think that he deserves it and he's earned it. So let's see if he can reach his ultimate potential. And that's my goal for him on the summer. He's going to be in the gym. He's going to be on the track. He's going to do all those things that he needs to do to continue to make himself a better basketball player. But can he now, with his body, you look at these NBA guys, you look at Ant-Man, and see what he looks like as a two guard, right? He looks like a guy that can be playing on Sundays. But you take a look at that, and it's like, okay, this is what I gotta try to get my body in that line to look like. So. No, I'm really excited about him, man, and I think he's going to have a super year.
So you got 2 potential MEAC Hall of Famers. I'm putting it out there now, and Bryce and Marcus that I've just mentioned. In my eyes, and I'm sure you would agree, these are your building blocks. You added some new guys to your program. I see you got a big man, you got a point guard coming in. Hard to replace Harrison, who it was just amazing to watch his journey. To close the season and be the most outstanding player of the MEAC tournament. Nobody could have predicted that or saw that coming. Although when I saw him play against Morgan at Morgan, even though you lost that game, I said, okay, he's starting to find it now. But of course, lost some pieces for different reasons. Some graduated too. Talk about your new recruits and what are you excited about with the new guys coming in and how will they fit into this culture? Like I said, that you're building around these 2 stars that you have.
Yeah, I'm so excited about this team coming up, Ray. I think we have a chance. When you look at it on paper, we'll have 4 guys that have played at a high major school. We'll have another 2 guys that played at an Ivy League schools. And then we have another young man that has played and had a lot of success at an A10 school. And that's not to mention Bryce or OC, guys that are coming back that have been super successful in our program. I want us to be able we got a chance. We got a chance, and we got a chance to be unique and special. And I want to hold our standards to be that. That's I saw a great podcast clipping the other day with Tom Brady and Jay-Z and my man from Fanatics. And, what I talked to our guys about today is, Tom Brady says he approaches every preseason game like it's his Super Bowl. So when he gets to the Super Bowl, he doesn't have to prepare, himself to be ready to play in a Super Bowl. And if we're talking about having a chance to be special, then we need to be preparing ourselves every day to be special. Not to be special in those moments that are special, right? We need to be working in that way. Like if our conditioning's not there, can we push ourselves to a point where our conditioning is getting better, but also our details in the way we are working are there? Just so we have that mindset of what it takes to, I'll use the word to be great, because I think we have a chance to be great this year.
I believe so. I mean, I don't. Well, it's interesting. I'm just say this because I did not attend Howard. Obviously, of course I attended the MEAC school. I'm HBCU graduate, and I just have a passion for HBCUs and athletics and within HBCUs. But I get accused of that because I've covered your program so closely. But you guys, with what you're returning, and of course you went in the tournament back-to-back years. You're the front runner moving forward. That's going to make you a target. But I believe your guys, because of who I've mentioned, I believe you guys will be ready. And of course, because of your leadership, and it's really a blessing to see where you come from, man. To have your program shut down that year after a few games with COVID, and I know that's so far gone, but I don't know if that still sits in the back of your mind, like, wow. And the vision that you had is now is just coming to fruition. It's such, like I said, a blessing to see. So moving into this further into this off season, talk a bit about what you got going on. You got basketball camps. People are always stopping by the campus of Howard University. I was joking the other day with somebody because Bam Adebayo was pictured there. You got Aja Wilson, and they even sitting on press row. I got somebody tapping me again. I didn't go to Howard, but they probably thought I did. They like, Muhammad Ali was on our campus years ago, and I'm like, okay, I get it.
Right.
But it's a great place. One of the top HBCUs, one of the top universities, period, in the country. Talk about this off season and what you got going on there, man.
Yeah, well, Ray, just to kind of piggyback on your point with some of the people that have come through our building as of late. I when I took the job, one of my visions was that our arena, our games can be events, and with the events, it can be a thing that where everything intercedes in Washington D.C. So, like, can we have entertainment? Can we have lawyers? Can we have professional athletes? Can we have doctors? Can we have entrepreneurs? Can we have ambassadors? Can we have politicians? If they wanted to see and be in that in an event that is like everything excellence in DC, can that be formed and done at Howard University? And that was kind of my vision as when we started. And now we have the new practice gym that just opened in December. We've had tons of, I think, what do they have? The ACC tournament here this March. So the ACC tournament was here. We had tons of teams that came through in practice. The CAA tournament was here. We had a bunch of teams practice.
Yep.
And now, WNBA and NBA teams, when they come through, they want to come through and practice at our place too. So I think Sunday night we just had the Seattle Storm practice, like you mentioned, Bam Adebayo. We had Jimmy Butler stop through. We had Washington Wizards come through. A lot of visiting teams when they the night before the game, some of those guys want to come in and get individual work done. So they sneak into our gym, either Burr or our practice gym, to get work in. Detroit Pistons have stopped through several times. And so we get random calls from different people with different organization. And it's like, hey, we're in town. Can we know about your facility? It's really nice. Can we come through and get a workout in? So we're very open to those relationships and allowing, people to still hone their crafts and, be an opportunity for that as well.
Yeah, man. And just real quick, speak about your basketball camp and everything you got coming up.
Yeah, so basketball camp's coming up. That's a great thank you, Ray, for bringing that up. And, excited about that. We're going to have 3 sessions of camp for our guys that are ages 6 through 14. One camp would be 6 through 18. And the dates on those camps are going to be the first camp is going to be 7/15. That's going to be for kids ages 6 through 14. The next camp is going to be 7/22. And that's going to be ages from 6 to 14. And then our last camp is going to be an elite camp where we bring in prospects from all over the country. And that's going to be kids from the age of 14 through 19. And that is on 7/29 and 7/30.
Nice.
And then the 1st of August, Ray, we're going to be going, I think, to Brazil right now and taking our team over for a 12-day, basketball tour, educational tour of Brazil. It's the 200th anniversary of the U.S. A Brazilian relationship. Wow. And we're going to work with the Bunch Center at Howard University, U.S. State Department, Dr. Hope, who is one of the people who is in charge of the Bunch Center, and 2 or 3 cities. We're going to be in Sao Paulo, we're going to be in Rio, and we're going to be in Sandoval. And Sandoval is the blackest city in Brazil, and doing some of our social justice initiative work over there while we're there as well, while we try to set up and play 4 games.
Well, congratulations, Coach. I want to quickly shout out Coach Gray. She snuck me into that practice facility. It's really nice. So I see why teams are coming to visit you there, man. And again, congratulations on all your success, especially considering some of the things you went through from the time you started this position to now with the injuries and all. But of course, you guys have overcome. And like I said, it's going to be a big season to come for your team and your program. And like I said, I thank you for spending this time with the urban sports team. Of course, don't be a stranger. We'll see you this season at some point. Definitely.
Absolutely, Ray. And appreciate all the wonderful work you and Wale do. You guys do a terrific job, and very grateful to have you guys covering HBCU sports and everything you guys do in the community. So thank you so much.
All right. Have a blessed day, my friend. Take care. I'll see you soon.
Yes, sir.